I know. At this point everyone has already made a video on the new CitCon Silhouettes, but I promise this one has new information. I was surprised that almost all of these are things we already knew or figured out within hours. CIG usually are more subtle when it comes to teasers. So I did not just take guesses here. For every ship I recreated the 3D camera and placed existing models to see how well they line up. And while that seems unnecessary, for quite a few of them I got surprised. Let's just have a look at the first one. I was not the only one suspecting this to be the newly announced Argo CSV-FM, so the base building variant, because the CSV-SM or supply model is already in game at this point. However, if you look closely, something's off with that. The rear is different. I first thought it could be with the construction drones deployed or just not loaded, but I'm sure we can agree that these railings here definitely look like they would not detach. I also compared it to the already released SM with and without cargo loaded, but it does not fit either. This could be an oversight, maybe the model used here had some parts hidden. Either way, I went back to the presentation, and I might be making this up completely, but the way John Crew phrased it...
This is where the CSV-SM for supply model comes in. So the second CSV-based vehicle in the game.
Kinda sounds like there might just be more than two in the pipeline. But when it comes to what role that one could fit, my guess is as good as yours. The second shape is one of only three that I have no idea whatsoever what it is. For these I will just make something up in the second part of this video, but if you have any ideas of stuff floating around the internet that I missed, please let me know in the comments. I read something about a Greycat CAV, but Greycat has industrial in the name and this looks to be military. I read something about an Ursa and thought this was a lot smaller, but to my surprise it's pretty much the size of an Ursa, even though I don't think the shape really matches. The third one is something on the Atlas platform, obviously. My first guess was the base building thing they've shown last year, but it's nowhere near that big. I aligned it with the Spartan here, with the wrong turrets though, just to show that it's about the same length, but a little higher in the back. Could still be for base building, and one step up from the CSV, but the soldier might suggest something military. The next two are definitely Hornets. I saw a lot of people saying this is the Ghost and the next one is the Tracker, both the Mark II variants. But those two are already announced. I think it would be a bit weird to tease them here. And I saw someone spotting a heavy Hornet version in the Squadron 42 gameplay called the F7 CRA. But honestly, I'm not the biggest Hornet fan myself, so I don't think my speculation is worth that much. Then we have the medical terrapin, also pretty well recognizable. The front VTOLs are a bit bigger than what I have on my model. This here is also not on the back, but part of the front VTOL. This on the side, I added that, is the light that you can see in the close-up revealed at CitCon. I checked a few times what area this clip is showing exactly, and it's starting at the rear and then panning over the back towards the front. You can make out this ladder in the beginning and then these markings in the middle. The only thing that surprised me here is that the paint seems to be the same as on the base terrapin, except for this panel and some minor details. Maybe the grey is a touch brighter, but I think something like the fan mock-up floating around would do a much better job at distinguishing the two models. Oh, and also this is one of the biggest graphical oversight I've seen in any of those trailers. You can clearly see that there are screws and some labels floating in the air because the side panel of the model is missing, and so we can see inside the geometry here. CIG, please fix. The next silhouette seems obvious, but I have doubts. If you want to avoid leaked information, you should skip this one. It appears to be what we saw last year and lovingly called the Fat Fury. Between now and then, the name Mirai Guardian was leaked, alongside an image that I won't show you, but I did draw a quick sketch of what I saw. I'm sure you can find the original if you look for it, but it looked pretty much like this, and also looked both really authentic and also pretty far in development, even though that is always a bit hard to say with CIG artwork. I made a quick 3D model based on that, and that aligns really well with last year's silhouette. Of course not perfectly, because I quickly made this based on a single picture, but the scale seems to fit perfectly. Oh, and I did not just make it fit this image. The leaked one had people in it, and I scaled it according to that, and it happens to perfectly fit this one too. Also notice that both mine and the silhouette have mostly very straight lines and hard angles. Now looking at this year's silhouette, does not fit that well. I thought that maybe the wings rotate when landing, which changes the silhouette, And maybe they still do that, but apart from a very similar base shape, I don't really see these two being the same ship. Then again, there are some points here and there where things align scarily well. And also looking back at last year's Intrepid silhouette and then this year's teaser of the same ship, it also has gotten a lot more rounded, more detailed obviously, but a lot of those straight lines seem to have been ironed into a more aerodynamic shape. So either these two are two different but similar ships, maybe one is an alien ship and one is a variant adapted to the human market. We had something similar before. And what would also speak for that is that it would be lame to tease the same ship twice. I feel like they tried to avoid that. Or this is the same ship and another case of this was a version very early in development and now it became this, which would be a reminder that even high quality leaks should not be trusted completely.
Now when I saw this one in the expo hall, I just noticed the mining head and the big VTOL before it was gone again. And my first thought was the Argo entry miner. I heard some people want it as competition for the Prospector. But on closer inspection, it definitely is a Prospector. I had some problems aligning this one. I could either perfectly match the front with all the little fins or the VTOLs, but never both, and the top back was always off. So I might just have aligned it wrong, but I think this variant will be slimmer around the back, lose the saddlebags, and gain some kind of lift at the bottom. I saw comments that this is a bigger version, but I checked and this is the very same scale as the existing Prospector, minus the back. In the front, these round things seem to be replaced with something else I can't make out, but the most important detail I only noticed while aligning the model, this is not a mining head, it's a salvage head. I took this straight from the Vulture, and the head seems to be about 15% smaller than on Vulture. Not sure if that means anything, but that could make these new things the disintegrators the Vulture has built into its arms. So my money is on a Prospector salvage variant. We had the name Misk Fortune floating around for months now, maybe it's that one. And I don't really like that. I am all for variants, and it really makes sense to reuse the chassis, but the Prospector is such an iconic mining ship, I would have liked something to differentiate the two professions more.
This is another of the three silhouettes I have not found a good fit for. I saw people read it as the Intrepid, the new Crusader starter, but to me that looks a lot higher off the ground. Also, even if it has the wings folded down, the Intrepid has these little winglets on the back that should be readable from this angle too. And then we can also see an entrance ladder on the right side of the ship, but we know the Intrepid has stairs pretty much on the opposite side, and that would be the third entrance into the ship. However, I do read something Crusader-y in the shape of the head and lights of this one. My wildest guess is that this could be a flatter stealth variant of the Intrepid, mainly because most Crusader ships seem to have a black variant, mostly for bombing, but usually they don't change the shape that much. If you have a better guess, please let me know, and I will attempt to sketch something up. And this is the third mystery silhouette. I'm currently making something up for part 2, but I want to at least give you some information here. I've read speculation that it might be the redesigned Ironclad and Caterpillar command module, but they called that a quote slight redesign, and this is massively different obviously. Size-wise, it's not completely unbelievable, but the wings would obviously be in the way. I think it's too tall for that. Given the height of the person and the SCU box, this would be roughly 22-23 meters from floor to wingtip, which is tall, but less tall than I initially thought. And it's about the size of a Corsair with its wing up, so the similarity is obvious. Anyway, as with the others, if you have any good idea what this could be used for or what you would like it to be used for, please let me know, and I'll try a few different ideas, just because this one is by far the most interesting shape.
The next one has already been widely known to be the Apollo. This in particular is the Medivac, because it has the ballistic Gatlings instead of the Triage's laser cannons. But if there is any ship with a chance to get both variants at the same time, it's probably this one, because the two are so similar. Next we have the newly announced Misk Starlancer. I saw many speculating this is the BLD, the base building variant, but I'm certain it's the Max, because that is the only one of the three with this iconic kind of headlight. And the Max will be in game in just a few weeks at IE. That does not necessarily mean that the BLD and TAC will not be worked on right after. but I don't remember what they said when base building is coming, just because I would not put too much weight into that anyways. But if they said base building will come within the next year, I would bet the first iteration will be small structures only, which means no purpose for the BLD. And so when they look back at this list of silhouettes in a year from now, they can rightfully say this one is the max and delivered, even if they have to hold the BLD or both other variants back. I think that is all this is about. Number 13 is obviously the Perseus. Not much to say about this, other than, and that has been confirmed by now, this means the Perseus switched places with the Galaxy in the pipeline, because the Perseus shares more assets with the Polaris than the Galaxy, and therefore can be finished quicker. However, just by seeing how perfectly my model aligned with the silhouette in the video, to the finest detail in places, I'm very confident that what you see here is still the old hollow viewer model that was in the IAE hall for years. That does not mean no further work has been put into the Perseus at this point, but it would not surprise me either. Then we have the Ironclad. That is a bit of a surprise, just because it entered production so relatively early compared to, well, the Galaxy. But this one seems to have generated a fair bit of hype, so cool it's coming sooner. Oh, and something I did not spot immediately. This silhouette is the Ironclad without the cockpit or command module. That is a bit odd. We know it will be a, quote, slight redesign from the Caterpillar, but the Q&A states that the Ironclad cannot be flown without the command module, so why it's missing here, I don't have a good explanation. And lastly we have the Pioneer, also very obvious. My alignment is not very good because the model I have is still from before the rework, but I'm sure everyone agrees what this is. And that's it. I want to take this opportunity to thank my first 3 supporters on YouTube and Patreon. They apparently support my idea of high quality content over super regular videos, and that is something I'm incredibly grateful for. In return, they can right now walk around the Galaxy interior that I built on this channel. If that sounds interesting and you want your name on this wall before I release the next playable build with all the Galaxy modules for IE, now's your chance. There's a short video to explain all of it if you're interested. And now thank you very much for watching and see you in the verse.